I believe it's been a good week for me and also for each and every one of you. So I want to welcome you to our today's session. It's as I said last time, it's been a journey, and yeah, it's always been the slogan that if you want to go far, then go together. So it's always a good thing for us to embrace the spirit of community and also the spirit of togetherness. So my name is Musa. For those who maybe are joining for the first time, I'm also one of you, and I'm taking DA, DS, and DE. And I'm very, very happy about this session. I'm actually very, very happy, extremely happy, since we are coming to the end of the DA program. And for me, I can say that it's been more than a journey for me, because the things that I've actually been able to learn for the past maybe 2 or 3 months, it's been quite a lot. And that is growth. So for me, it's been quite a journey and a good journey. I don't know what about you. Maybe you can share how your journey has been on the chat, and then maybe, yeah, we are going to check up on some of them as we wind up. So I will be taking you through the fourth part of visualization. That is the fourth part of the integrated project on visualizations. And the fourth part is on transparency. From the first project to the third one, we've actually been visualizing the currents of change in Maji Ndogo. And the fourth one is actually tracking transparency, or even transparency in tracking Maji Ndogo's water funds. So this is what we are going to be dealing with for this session. And it's really long, or even I can say it's a long one. So I'm going to try as much as possible to cover what I will be able to cover within the time that we are having. But it's my hope that I'm going to be able to cover everything. So remember, we've been visualizing different aspects of the data set that we've been having. That is the MD water services. And that was a data set about Maji Ndogo, about sources of water in Maji Ndogo, and a lot more. And we've been able to come up with various insights that would drive change in Maji Ndogo, or even would bring a revolution in Maji Ndogo. And our last project is on, we want to determine where these funds will be going to and how the funds will be distributed. That is on a national level, on a provincial level, and apart from that, on also a town level. Okay, so this is a brief introduction from the president, as always. And I will not go through all of this. I will just mention a few things that we are going to be working on during our today's project. And these are the key ones. So we are going to streamline our monitoring and decision-making process. And in doing that, we are going to need a dashboard. You're going to need a dashboard. And this dashboard is going to provide clear insights into several key aspects. So today we are going to generate a dashboard. Remember, a dashboard will be used in actually tracking a specific funding that is going into different towns, different maybe provinces, and also different regions. So in this case, this dashboard is going to include some various aspects. And among them, we have these ones that we are going to be dealing with for our today's session. So we have current progress status of the project. So we want to know what is the status of the projects. Are the projects completed, or are they still pending? Because we might have some projects that are already completed, we might have some others that are still running, and we might have some other projects which are still not yet started. They've not yet been started. So we are going to be coming up with an aspect that shows the project status. And then the other one is total expenditure. to date, the total amount of money that has been used in doing the renovations or even doing or even doing the changes within the different sources of water. So how much money has been used? That is what we are going to do. And then the other one, we are also going to show a breakdown of the spending by location, how the money has been spent by location, that is either rural or maybe urban, how the money or even how much amount of money was used in doing the changes within the different sources of water for the rural and also the urban. And then the other one is specifics on what the funds have been used for. So we also want to know the details of where the funds went into, like how much money went into installing wells, how much money went into maybe improving taps, how much money went into maybe changing infrastructure, and a lot more. So we want the specifics on where the funds went into or even how the funds were used. And then the other one is a forecast on whether the allocated budget will surface the project completion, whether the budget that we already had, remember during our previous project, that project we discussed about, we came up with a budget, a total budget in that case. So we want to know whether that budget is going to surface the project completion in this case, or even whether it's going to be enough for the completion of all the projects that we have. And then we have potential areas of cost reduction. We also want to streamline some specific areas in this case. We want to counter check which areas are using a lot of water, a lot of money. And then if there is, if need be, then we are going to work on reducing that cost, ensuring that we do not overspend in this case. And then the other one is comprehensive data representation at national, provincial, and town levels. I think I mentioned about that. And then the last thing that we are going to be working on, or even that is going to appear in our dashboard, is providing clear insights into what the teams are doing on the ground, like what is happening within the ground. Maybe in this case, we are going to be forced to showcase what is happening on a national level, on a provincial level, and also on a rural level and also town level. How many wells are being dug in specific regions? How many taps are being installed in specific regions? That is now the insights into what the teams are doing on the ground. So this is what is going to guide us for our today's discussion. And it's my hope that it's going to be interactive. And apart from that, you're also going to learn. We are also going to learn from one another. Okay, so this project is completely dependent on the third integrated project. Like the data set that we were using for that project, that is the same data set that we are going to be using for this project. So this is what we are supposed to do. This is what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to make a copy of the file that we used during our previous discussion. We make a copy of it and then ensure that it is stored in a separate folder. And then we rename the new copy as public dashboard, in this case, using the save as. And then after that, we delete all the visual pages. The reason as to why we are doing this is because we are going to need the data set, the same data set with some of the calculations that we made during our previous discussion. And then apart from that, we are also going to be forced to remove some of the columns and also some of the tables that are not going to be needed for our discussion. And example, we have these three. We have these three. So we have these three. We are going to remove the address, the province, the comment columns from project progress table. We are also going to remove the date, biological description, and pollutant ppm columns from the well pollution table, and also remove the address column from the locations table. These are now the columns that we don't need them for this specific project or even part of the project. And the reason as to why we are doing this is to also ensure that we don't spend a lot of time or even we also want to ensure that our Power BI is maximized, doesn't spend a lot of time trying to run some specific queries in this case. And then apart from that, these two tables are not going to be needed, like the Q composition table and the water source related crime tables. These two are not going to be needed, so we are also going to do away with them. We're also going to do away with them. the next part in that case, we are going to load this specific data set. Now, this specific data set, if you open this, you're going to notice that this one is having some more, this data set has some more tables. Let me just click on that. Okay, let me just open that so that I show you what I'm talking about. Okay, it's actually downloaded. Anyway, so what I was saying is that this data set contains some more tables. So if you click on this, it's going to open, it's going to download. And after you download that data set, the next thing is to now replace the old data set that you had within your Power BI, replace it with this. The reason as to why you're doing that is to ensure that you update. It's like updating the power the data set within your Power BI in this case. So make sure that the model loads correctly and that there are no errors. And look at the project progress. You will notice a few columns that have been added. For example, in this case, you'll also notice that the province is gone. The town as town names in this case. You notice that the town has town names. For example, Amina and Harare have the first letter of the province at the end, so that we know where each and every town is found. So you'll notice that we have the province name before those towns that are found in different provinces. And then, okay. So now after you're downloading your data set and after you're downloading the tables that are not found within the previous data set, the next thing that we are going to do is to do this update. We are going to update this. And just before that, let me just take you to our Power BI. Let me just take you to our Power BI. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so that is it. This is our Power BI. And if you try checking on the left, let me just, now this is the same data set that we used during our previous presentation. Let me open it on data, okay, yeah. So this is the same data set that we had used in this case. So if you try looking at this, let me start from infrastructure cost. Now, within the infrastructure cost, this is the same table. We had rural adjusted cost that we had calculated from our previous discussion. And then for locations, we've done away with a few columns, like the address, we've done away with a few columns. I already did that so that we don't waste a lot of time. And then for project progress, it's still the same. I also did away with a few columns that we were not required to have. So for this column here, which is the aggregated, which is the budgeted improvement cost, that is what we had calculated during our previous discussion, and also the aggregated improvements. So these two columns were created during our previous discussion. And then visits. For visits, you can also see that this is what we are having in this case. And then for water source, we are having this. We have also done away with a few columns that we didn't need. And then for well pollution, we've also done away with a lot of values in this case, like the concentration of the different contaminants in that case. So we only have two. And then I've also done away with the two tables, that is not well pollution, but the table that contains the crimes, the different crimes in that case. I've done away with those two tables, the table that contains the different crimes and also the Q composition table. I also deleted that. Now, for those people who might be asking how to do about that, if you want to delete a table, you navigate to the table on the far right, and then there you see some 3 dots. Click on the 3 dots and you see somewhere where it's written delete from model. and you'll be able to delete that from model. So since we are now done with that, the next thing is to now replace. We want to replace, in that case, we want to replace our data set with the data set that we've been given within our slides or even within our project. So we want to replace. So in order for you to be able to replace, you just navigate to transform data, and you'll see a drop down. So you click on the drop down, and you'll see data source settings. So you click on data source settings, and after clicking on data source settings, you will see two options in that case: data source in current file and global permissions. So for us, we want to change the current file. That is what we want to change. We want to just replace the current data set that we are having with another data set. So in this case, we are going to change our data source. So this is what we had previously, MD Water Services data. It was an Excel workbook. So on the that is down there, you're going to see a few options that you can choose from: change source, export PBIDs, edit permissions, clear permissions. So we want to change the source. So you click on change source, and after clicking on change source, it's going to ask you for the new source or even the new path that we need to follow for us to be able to retrieve the data set that we want to load. So you click on browse, and then you now navigate to where you have your data set, where you had stored your data set. If it's in the downloads, you check for it within the downloads. Now for us, it's that one. So you click open, and then you click OK. And then after you're done replacing, you close that. And after closing that, you wait until it runs, or even it finishes running. So we can click on apply changes. You're going to see some specific things loading. The tables loading. You're going to see the tables loading. Now, since we are now done with replacing the data set that we used during our previous presentation, in this case, the next thing is to now load the new tables. Remember our new data set, if you open it within Excel, using Excel, you're going to notice that we have some new tables. So after you're done, you need to now load the new tables. You need to load the new tables into your current data set. Because if you use the replace option, then chances are that you're only going to have the tables that were there within the previous data set. You can see in this case, we only have 6 tables, the ones that we had. But if you try opening on some of them, like the project progress, you're going to notice a few changes. You can see we have some new columns, like assigned vendor. We have date started. We also have the cost. And if you try checking on some of them, that is clicking on the drop down, it's going to show you all the vendors that have been working on that specific project. So that is it. So we've now replaced the data set. If you also try checking, you can also try checking on the other tables to confirm whether there are changes. The one that has got some changes, you can see within the locations, town name, we have the word rural coming before Akatsi, because Akatsi is a town, and at the same time, we have a town. Okay, this is rural. We have the word rural coming before the word Akatsi, so that means the rural parts of Akatsi. And at the same time, if you click on the down, that is a drop down, you're also going to notice some changes within the names. Like in this case, we have Amina A. That means it's Amina in province A and Amina in province H. Hawassa and Amansi. I'm not sure whether it's Amansi or Akatsi. Yeah. So like the towns that are found in 2 different provinces, or even a town having the same name but being found within different provinces, will have this type of lettering in this case, or even it will be assigned its province against the name. Same to Harare. We have Harare in A and Harare in K. And same to these ones. We have rural Akatsi, rural Amansi, rural Hawassa, and so many others. So we have a few changes within our data set that we've just loaded. For water source, we do not have any changes. Well, pollution, no changes. So since we are now done, the next thing is to now get the new tables, the tables that were added within our previous data set. And to do that, you click on get data, and then it's an Excel workbook. So you click on the data set itself, and then click on open. And after clicking on open, you're going to see some values loading. Or even you're going to see the different tables that are found within the Excel workbook. So what you do is that you click the tables that you want. You only click the tables that you want to load. Now, if you look at this, on the right side, we only have 6 tables. Within our data set, we have around 9. We have 9 tables. So that means that we are lacking 3 tables within our data set. We are lacking only 3 tables within the data set that we are using currently. So what we do, we counter check infrastructure cost. That one is there. Location is also there. Project progress is also there. Queue composition, we don't need that. So we deleted this. And if you also try on opening this, you'll also notice that this one is blank. Then we have vendors. We need that one because it's a new table. Otherwise, if you click on queue composition, you can see queue composition is blank. So I'm not going to choose on queue composition. Then vendors, visits, we already have that. Water source, we already have that. Water source, this one, related crime. This one is also, I think it's also empty. Just wait for the preview. You can see that all the columns are nulls. So that means that it's empty. The entire table is empty, so we don't need that. Then well pollution, we also have well pollution. So in this case, we only choose the table that we want to run. And then let me choose on this, check whether maybe there are any errors. You can see we have a problem with the title. So we click on transform data. We click on transform data. And after clicking on transform data, you're going to see a pop-up that is going to ask you, or even that is going to show you what should be done in this case. So we want to ensure that our table is in the right format. So the first thing is the column headers. We need to use the first row as column headers. That is the first thing. So the first thing, let us change that. We use first row as headers. We change that. And now we have that. Now the next thing is we need to check on the distribution. That is the column quality, the column distribution, and the column profile. And as you can see, I think all the columns are they are good. Yes.
Sorry to cut in. Your screen seems frozen.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So what are you seeing currently?
We're just seeing your dashboard. Yeah.
Okay. I think let me work on that. Give me a minute. Sorry for that.
As he fixed that, can someone enlighten me why we changed the data source, but we still have to upload the Excel workbook?
Make sure I'm protected. You better make sure I get my shares. And another thing. What's that?
Okay. I don't know if anybody wants to answer that question, but my own thought is that when you upload, when we're updating the data, I think it updates only the sheets, the existing. It updates only the existing tables. You understand? It updates only the existing tables, as in, only the existing tables that are already existing on the in your data. So the other tables that are not existing, you have to add them separately. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Sorry, Miriam, did you understand? Did you get that?
Yes, it kind of does make sense because when we update the source, it updates the tables that we already have, but now
Yes.
there are additional tables, so I have to upload those into the updated table.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what
Okay, let me try doing that.
Okay, so are you able to see the what I was discussing about?
We can see now. Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about what happened previously. So this is what I was talking about. So in this case, as I was saying, okay, what we had was something that didn't look like this. What we had was something else. The columns, we had column 1, column 2. That is the title. The column headers were column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. And I also know that you're going to experience the same once you load the new table. So in this case, you navigate to the home and then you check for this specific maybe a value here. Use first row as headers. It's having a drop down. You click on that and it's going to give you 2 options: using first row as headers or using headers as first row. And in that case, we choose on use first row as headers. And after doing that, you're going to notice that there is now some changes. Then the next thing is we need to check on the data types. For the first one, this is the vendor ID. It's a text, that is correct. Company name is text, that is also correct. Owner name, text, and then company name, text. So for those ones, they are all good. Then the next thing, you can check on the validity. You can see that all the columns are 100% valid. They contain values that are 100% valid. And yeah, so our data set or even our table within, the values within this table seems to be okay. So we can now close and apply changes. And before I continue, just to expound on what Tochukwu has said, in this case, if you fail to maybe update, the data set that we were using previously and instead you load a new data set, then chances are that you are going to lose the calculated columns, like the columns that we had calculated previously, or even the measures that we had calculated previously during our discussion. You're going to lose all of them because what you've done is that you've loaded a new data into your Power BI. So like it's going to, it might end up replacing everything that we had before. So that is why we've chosen to change the, let me talk of source, changing the source or even replacing the old data set with the new one, which is not going to change everything that we had before. So this is what we have. This is what we have. So now our tables are, they are in good condition. So let me click and apply. Okay.
Excuse, Eliana. How did you get the Excel file that you are using? Because I'm I'm lost. I'm not able to see the Excel file that you have uploaded.
Okay, just a minute. Now the Excel file that I'm using currently, it's
You can find it on the PDF of the project file, the project number 4. I'm not sure which page it's on, but you need to download it and then you need to add the vendor list table from that file you downloaded.
yes, that is it. It's actually on page 4 of the integrated project 4. This is the file that I'm talking about. This is the file that I'm talking about. This one. It's on page 4 of your project, the PDF. I'm not sure. Yeah, I hope now you can see it's on page 4. So that is the data set that we are using. That is the data set that we are using. And the only table that you are adding into your previous data set is the vendors table. And then you update the old table. Okay. So since we are done with that, let us now proceed to the next. So the next thing is to update. We need to update our improvement. We need to update our budgeted improvement cost. We need to update our budgeted improvement cost. And how are we going to do that? How are we going to update our budgeted improvement cost in this case? Remember, previously we were using a specific formula. We were using a specific formula that if the town name is rural, then, or even if maybe the sources are in rural parts of Maji Ndogo, then we are going to pick the related values from the rural adjusted cost in that case. Otherwise, if they are not found within rural, that means that they are found within urban, then we are going to pick the value from that is the unit cost, USD. Now, previously, we had used something like this. We had used something like this. So what we were doing is that we were only using the word rural alone. That is, if they are found in rural. But right now, we have town names. We have names of places being written as rural, maybe Awasa, something like that. You can also have something else like rural, maybe Kilimani, not Kilimani, but maybe rural, something else, rural Kilimani, and a lot more. So like the rural parts of those regions that are found in Maji Ndogo have their names beginning with rural in that case. So that means that they all begin with rural, and then there is a specific name, the name of the province. If it's rural, if it's Awasa, then it's rural Awasa, or even maybe the name of the town. If it's Kilimani, then rural Kilimani, or even maybe it's a town like maybe Amina, then it's rural Amina, something like that. So the rural regions of Maji Ndogo begin with the word rural. So this is a formula that we are going to use to replace the old formula that we had used before. In our old formula, we had used this. We had used something else. We were only checking for the word rural alone. But right now, this is what we were using. Rural, we were using something like that. Is equals to, the town name is equals to rural, like that. But right now, we are going to change that to have this. So if the town column contains the word rural, then the star in this case means something else. There are some few letters, or even few, let me call them letters. There are some additional letters to the right-hand side of rural in this case. So if it contains this, then pick the related value from the rural adjusted cost. Otherwise, if it doesn't contain that, then output the value within the unit cost USD column. And we know that these ones, the two tables must be related. That is the project progress and infrastructure cost. They must be related. They must have a specific type of cardinality in that case. So I'm just going to copy that. But before that, let me just continue. So after we are done calculating our new values, that is the new values for the budgeted improvement cost for the different towns, then the calculated rural adjusted cost column infrastructure may have a different name. Okay, that is not important. So we are also going to notice a few changes, as I said, within the project progress. The date started in this case symbolizes the date when the recording was made. That is when the improvements was started. The date of completion symbolizes when the project was completed. The cost represents the actual amount of money in US dollars that were used in making the changes within the different sources of water in Maji Ndogo, or even within the different regions in Maji Ndogo. And then the assigned vendor, that one, or even the vendor ID represents the person who was making the upgrade in that case. So we are going to come back to that when you're going to be dealing with the vendors. So we also need to check on the relationships and cardinalities. So we are going to check on that. And then there's a question here, what should the water source to project progress relationship be? This may have changed when we imported the data. So we are also going to check on that, the water source to project progress relationship, or even the cardinality. And then next, the vendors' IDs are a little impersonal. So if you import the Excel file again, you'll see a table called vendors. Okay, I've already done that. So within the vendors table, we are going to come across these four groups of companies. These are companies. So we have groundwater extraction teams that are involved in drilling wells. We have water distribution system installation. We have water distribution system installation teams that are involved in installing taps. Then we also have water purification system installation teams that are there to install UV and RO well filters. Then the last one is civil infrastructure assessment teams, whose work is to repair broken infrastructure. So we are also going to check on that. And then apart from that, we are also going to notice that we have a few projects that have been complete, while others are still in the backlog. That means that they've not been completed. So we are going to counter check the progress, the progress of the different upgrades within Maji Ndogo by tracking the different projects that have been completed, or even by quantifying the projects that have been completed in this case. So then we have this. We have this. So the next thing is to come up with now the dashboard. We need to come up with the dashboard. And the dashboard should include this. Remember, we are making this dashboard number one for the public. The public needs to know, the entire citizens of Maji Ndogo need to know where are the changes taking place, how are the changes taking place, what is the cost of doing the different projects. And apart from that, the public also need to know which regions are receiving these upgrades in this case. So as a member of the public, we want to see the following. Number one is how the project is going. So we want to know which sources have been completed, and then how much money has been spent so far, and where was the money spent, how much money has been used, and where was it spent, and what the money was spent on. If it's 20 million, then that 20 million was spent on maybe drilling wells in Amansi. So we also need to know. So that means that we are going to have some slices showing different towns, others showing different provinces, and others showing maybe different allocation types, that is rural or urban. And then the last thing, we also need to show details about everything in the town, in that specific town. So we also need to be able to interact with information regarding a specific town. And then apart from that, our dashboard is also going to influence the decision makers, those who are going to make decisions. This is now the provincial heads, the town heads, and also the president herself. So as a decision maker, the president wants to see this, or even the leaders want to see this, how far the project is. That is, how far are we from completing the entire upgrades? How much money has been spent so far? Where was the money spent? What the money was spent on? And will we have enough time to complete the project? And then the last thing that we also want to see is data on the national, provincial, and town levels. So that is what we are going to be showcasing. Okay, so let me just change to my Power BI. Just a minute, I need to change to my Power BI. Okay. Okay, So this is our just a breakdown of what we are going to be working on, and this is how the dashboard is going to look like. I did this for the purposes of actually trying to save on time. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, just a minute. I need to make sure that these changes are made. Just a minute. I need to, I think the previous changes were not made. I need to ensure that it's still running, taking a lot of time. So let us give it some time. Now, as we wait for it to run, maybe if you have a question, you can just unmute and ask.
Musa, me, the challenge that I still have is on how to create the basic layout of the dashboard. That's I still have the problem on that area. So please, if you could be of help of me, then I will appreciate.
Okay. So you're mentioning about having a problem with the basic layout of the Power BI. I mean, of the dashboard that you've been creating. I wish. Let me. I will show you that in a minute. I think this thing is really taking a long time. Maybe the problem might be because I already did that. Like I also need to. Okay. Yeah. So like I know you must have noted that we are having this. Yeah, this is the layer. You try as much as possible to work around your Power BI, and there is an option to add images. You can add images into Power BI. You can also add shapes. So these boxes are these are just shapes. These are different shapes. You can use any shape that you want. So these are shape and a rectangular shape. So what you do is that you just click on shapes and then pick a rectangle and then change the size of the borders. You change the sizes of the borders. You can change the size of the borders to maybe 20, 15, depending on what you want, you think it's going to be good for you. So these are shapes. This one is a shape, that is a rectangle, and then these are also rectangles, and then these ones, the orange ones, this is a triangle, and this is a square. So these are just shapes. And then for this one, these are text box. So what you do is that you work with different fonts, different font sizes, and maybe colors. You can change the colors, the font sizes, and yeah, you just have to ensure that there is consistency and the formatting of your dashboard does not color clash, doesn't color clash. I don't know what I'm, okay, just give me a minute. Let me restart this. Sometimes these machines can embarrass us.
Hi, Musa, we can't hear you. Are you there?
Hello, Torch.
Yes, okay.
I was working on restarting my Power BI. It seems to be misbehaving.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just take you to that. Just give me a minute. It seems to be misbehaving.
Okay. Okay, so while we are waiting for Musa to... Okay, I think he's back now. That's fine. All right, I would have said we should, if anyone, other person has another question to ask, we can ask while we are waiting to start, to continue, I mean.
Okay, so Torch, I think give me a minute. Let me log out and then log in back because I think this specific notifications on top here, I think it is the one that is affecting because it's not responding. Once I click on these specific values on top here or even pages, it's not responding. So allow me to log out and then log in back within 1 minute.
It's okay, Musa. It's all right. It's okay.
Okay, Touch, even as Musa is sorting out that, how do we change the background of the shapes that we are putting on the dashboards? Like mine have got some colors on the background. So I'm want to change the color.
I'm not so perfect with this, but I know that if you want to change the background of the whole setting, I think you go to wallpaper. I think somewhere on the right. Just hold on. Let me see.
You mean theme?
Okay, I think theme will just change the colors and of your graphs and all that and of your presentations. But when you go,
For me, for the background, I
yeah.
selected the shape, and then formatting the shape, you can add color, and then you can adjust the percentages so that you can get the saturation that you want.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so then here, I think Joe was asking about the background. Now, if you want to change the background of the total of your full this thing, you go to visualizations and you check canvas. Go to canvas, and then go to canvas background, I think. Yeah, you can also see wallpaper. When you see wallpaper, you check wallpaper, you can change the color of the... Joe, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, but now I'm worried. Where can I find the wallpaper?
Okay, when you go to visualization, you know, visualization where you do your visuals, where you have all the graphs and all the whatever.
Yes.
Then you go to the second box there that has to do with like editing or so, visualization formatting.
Format page.
Yeah, go to the format page. Then you see
Wallpaper.
you see wallpaper. Yeah, if you click on wallpaper and you see color, you can change the color of the wallpaper. I don't know if that's the question you're asking anyway. Yeah, if you change the color of the wallpaper, it will change the color of the entire back of your work. Yeah.
Okay.
George, can you share your screen so that I see where you're getting your canvas?
Okay. All right. Let me do that. Can you see my screen now?
No.
Not yet.
Oh. Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to, this is where I'm going to check to work on my background.
Canvas background.
Oops. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I go to visualization here and then wallpaper. Yeah, and then I can change the color of the entire background to what I want. I want it to be white. I want it to be purple and whatever. So that's where I change the background. So then for themes, you can, this is where you can change, you can adjust the themes of the themes of your settings. So yeah. So these themes here would affect just the the graphs and your visuals. And then Joe, I think you're also asking how you get those shapes and all. So if you go to insert, you can insert shapes from here. You click here, there are different shapes. If you want a triangle, you can get a triangle, move it to where you want it to be. You can adjust it. And then to increase the border, to adjust the shape, you go to format shape. You can go here and hold on. You can go here and adjust the way the shape would look. So border, if you want the border to be, big, you can go here to increase the border. You can increase the border of the shape. You can change the color to white. Yeah. So things like that, and you can move it around where you want it to be. That's is it. Then you can also, if you want to type inside, you can now get a text box and fit it into the shape. It's always hard for me to carry. I'll put it inside the shape so that you can write inside. And most times you might want to make the shape to be, you want to make it transparent so that whatever you write inside, it will not block what's at the back. All right, I don't know, is Musa back now? Musa, are you back now?
Yeah, I am back.
Okay, so are you ready? So I can.
Yeah, let me present my screen. I can see that.
Okay, let me stop sharing so that you can
Okay.
present. So Joe, was I able to help at least a bit?
Appreciate. Thanks.
Oh, okay, all right. Then.
Okay. So sorry about that once more. So I think this one I've been forced to restart my Power BI, and I think I lost everything. So what I'm going to do, this is a file that we were using. So what we need to do is load. We need to replace. So I'm just going to do that very fast. We replace the values. We replace the values. Change the source, and then select on the source in this case. So sometimes you might be working with a huge data set. I think for Power BI, just like Google Sheets, you might experience some restrictions when working with Power BI. Sometimes system lag and all that. So what you need to do is you always need to ensure that you maximize what you are having. So I've done that. So let me add the new table once more. That is the vendors table. And then we can go into our calculations. Okay, so as you can see now, what I was talking about is this, the vendors table as column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4 as the column heads. So we need to do away with that. So transform data, and then we set the columns, that is row 1 as the column headers. Okay, now we are done. We are now done with that. We are now done with that. So the next thing is to, as I was talking about, these are visual. These are how our dashboard is supposed to look like. You can design depending on, people have different tastes and preferences, so you can design in a different manner, but I just use the one that we had been provided by ALX. So this is what we are having. This is what we are having currently. And as you can see, the first block is supposed to show the percentage access to water, the percentage of people having basic access to water. Then the second one should show the people that have been helped nationally, like after doing the various upgrades. That is installing maybe taps, drilling wells, and a lot more, working on the infrastructure. How many people are going to be helped from those new upgrades. That is the number that we want to see within the second box. And the third box is supposed to have a cumulative cost and the cumulative budget by date. Cumulative budget in this case stands for the total budget, the budget that we had set before, or even that we had approximated. This was an approximate value for each and every upgrade. And then cost is now the real amount of money that has been used in the doing of the upgrades. And then on the fourth one, we need to see the percentage project that is complete, or even the percentage of the project that is complete. So for us to be able to know the percentage of the project that is complete, we are going to pick the number of upgrades that have been done over the total number of improvements that were supposed to be done. And then we multiply by 100. And then we are also going to showcase the number of sources that are still not done. In this case, we also need to see them. And then apart from that, we also need to show the cost breakdown per province, and then the cost breakdown per improvement. And then here we can use a slicer, or even we can also use something else here. Now, in the middle here, we have a map. This map shows the different towns in Maji Ndogo. So what I did is that I did this for the purposes of time. So we had been provided with a map within our slides. So you are supposed to download the map. It's a full map of Maji Ndogo showing all the towns. So you're supposed to click on town name that is on the table, and then you click on town name. And then after clicking on town name, you navigate to the map, or even you use a shape map, and then move to the map settings. And then where we have map type, you change that to a custom map. And after changing that to a custom map, you can also do away with the background of the map. In that case, you can see the background is off. That means that we're not going to be having a background. So this map shows the different towns. It shows the different towns. And you can see all the regions are shaded. All the regions are shaded. Because in this case, we've not input any data. There is no data within our map. And then there is now the image, the previous image that we were using during our previous discussions. That is the MD map. This was the one that we, okay, this one, the one that you can see here, it's white. So what you're supposed to do is that you click on insert and then image. And after clicking on image, you're going to see this MD map. You click on MD map, and then you now ensure that you send it to the back. You send it to the back so that we are able to see the map, and I mean the JSON map in this case, and the map itself. So this map will be showing the changes, or even it will be showing the upgrades that are being done within the different regions in Maji Ndogo as we will be working on them. Now, if we maybe put something like, if we had something to the map, like maybe number of improvements, maybe aggregated improvements, that is from our previous discussion. If I add that, if I add the number of improvements and color saturation, you're going to see the changes in this case, whereby the dark blue shows the highest number of improvements, and then the light blue shows the fewer number of improvements. Same to maybe if you also do the same for maybe source type, you add that to the color saturation, you're also going to see this, that is improvement. If you do the same for the number of people that are served within each region, in that case, you're also going to see some changes. So we can add any value here that is going to help us in tracking the changes. But since we are interested in improvements, let us leave it at that. Let us leave it at that. Now, let me take you quickly to one of the calculated measures that we had done during our previous discussion. Now, within the water source table, we had this column here that classifies values as either basic or below basic. And from these, we were able to come up with a specific analysis that around that 4% of the entire population had basic access to water. And we were working on improving the lives of 66% of the entire population of Maji Ndogo. Those ones they were living, or even they were having below basic access to water. So this is what we had calculated, and also this other column, that is average queue time. And apart from that, on infrastructure cost, we had also calculated this. We had also calculated the rural adjusted costs. This one, it was a calculated column. And then on the project progress, we had this budgeted improvement cost. This was a cost that we had actually calculated from the improvement cost table. That is, if a source is found in rural areas, this is what I was talking about. If it is found in rural areas, then we pick the related value. We pick the related value from the rural adjusted cost column that is in the infrastructure cost table. Otherwise, if it is not rural, then we pick the related value on the unit cost USD column from the infrastructure cost table. So this was the calculated table. But there is one thing that we are now realizing. If you look at town name, the town names are changing. We are having rural Akati, rural Amansi, and so many others. Like the town names are changing depending on where they are found. If it's found in urban centers, then the town name is given as it is. But if it's found in rural areas, then it begins with rural. For example, you can see we have rural Akati, rural Amansi, Awasa, Kilimani, and Sokoto. And then the other towns are being shown as they are in that case. So we want to change our budgeted improvement column to only account for the values, for the new changes. We need to change that. So what we are going to do is that we are going to replace this column, that formula, with what we had. So just a minute, I need to copy that formula, or even maybe we can do a few changes. But for the purposes of time, let me just copy that formula and then I paste it there. So that is the formula. This is the formula. This is the formula that we are having. So if the town column, this is the town column, if it contains a string, in this case, we are checking if it contains this specific string, that is rural plus a few characters, then pick the related value from the infrastructure cost table. And in this case, we are picking them from this specific column, that is rural adjusted cost. Otherwise, if they do not contain this, then pick the related value from the unit cost USD column within the infrastructure cost. So we make our changes. And then now, since we've done that, okay, we are seeing an error. So the reason is because I just copied it the way it is. So I need to make a few changes. Rural adjusted costs. I think what I have is space. Let me run that. And it should, yeah, it works well. So now we have our changes. So now the values have been accounted for. Now let us go back to our visuals. And I'm going to begin with the second page. Allow me to begin with the second page. So as usual, we need to know the total population of Maji Ndogo. So what we are going to do, we are going to pick the total number of people in Maji Ndogo. That is the number of people served by the different sources, and then we sum them up. And then we show that as a card. So the total number of people in Maji Ndogo are 28 million. That is what we know. Then what is our estimated budget? What is our estimated budget? Or even what is our total budget? What is our total budget? That is the second thing that we want to know. So for us to be able to know the total budget that we are going to use, we are going to use the budgeted costs, or even the budgeted improvement costs, and then we sum it up.
Musa, where am I getting 4, 2, and I've run the same formula that you just did? I'm getting 4,200. I'm getting 4,200 for the budgeted improvement costs.
For the budgeted improvement costs, you're getting, what are you getting?
I'm getting 4,200, and like you just did, and you got 6,300.
Well, that means that there's a problem with maybe the formula. If you counter check on this, where we have 6,300, we against that we have 4,200. So it means that you've done the wrong, maybe the wrong referencing, because instead of picking out 6,300, it picks out 42. So it means that the problem is here. The problem might be here. The problem might be you might have interchanged these values. Instead of having this value, instead of having this coming first, you have it appearing at the end. That might be the reason.
I'm looking at your DAX and I'm looking at mine. They're just the same, so I don't understand.
Okay, counter check whether because the source IDs might be different. In that case, you might be having a different source ID. For example, my source ID, the first source ID in this case is project ID 93, source ID this one. So that is rural Akatsi, and it's a well. So installing RO filter, you can see it costs 6,300. 6,300. So the source IDs are different. So you
everything is the same. If I'm looking at you as the source ID, this the project ID, the town, everything is the same except that single column.
Well, then I don't know what might be the reason. Not unless the only reason that you're going to have, maybe instead of having 6,300, you're having maybe 4,200, is that cross-referencing. Let me not call it cross-referencing. Is that referencing? Instead of picking out the values for rural adjusted costs, it picks up the values for the unit cost USD. Or maybe you don't have this specific column. But if you didn't have that, then it would return an error if you didn't have that column. So because this is already rural Akatsi. So if it's rural Akatsi, it should be 63 because it's rural region. It should be 63, this one. Otherwise, if it is not rural, it should be 4,200. Anyway, anyone within the chat who might maybe have come across such a problem, if you have, maybe
I'm actually checking mine, and I'm seeing that I'm having the same issue as her, but I think we'll have to go back and check what might be the problem.
Okay. So anyone?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I had the same issue, but then I think it's loading the data. So I didn't load my data very well. That's new file that we had to load, right? That you say you go to the sourcing. You know, from the guide, they said we should store it in a different location from the first one, right? So when I did that, I loaded it again, it was okay. So I don't know if you can try that.
Yeah, I would also advise the same. You can try reloading, or even reloading the data again, and I believe it's going to work. Because
so it's the data set, okay. Because I'm getting that 4,200 instead of the 6,300 that I'm seeing on your screen. So maybe it could be that could be the problem. Let me try to reload it again.
Okay. Can I ask a question? Let me ask a question. Now, on the on the improvement cost, that is on the improvement cost table, are these values the same? Because remember, we had made some slight changes. If you look at the rural adjusted cost, you're going to notice some slight changes. We multiplied that by 1.5. That is, we increased the values by 50%. So are these values the same? If they're not the same, because you might be having this same column here, but the values remain the same as the first column. They should be different. So if they are different, then I would advise you to refresh. Maybe restart your Power BI. But if they are not, then work on this specific column. Okay.
Yeah,
So
we'll just go
My
ahead and
values are
reload.
just the
Maybe
same.
you continue, then we'll do that behind this scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I was saying, we've now calculated we've come up with the budgeted, we've changed the budgeted improvement column. So after doing that, the next thing that we want to know is the total budget. How much money is going to be needed in doing the upgrades? To calculate that, we calculate the sum of the budgeted improvement cost column. We calculate the sum of that. And after doing that, this is what we are getting. So we can call that column, I mean, we can call that one the cumulative budget. That is now the cumulative budget, the budget that is needed. The budget that is needed in this case. So we can call it the cumulative budget. The cumulative budget. So it's 146.74 million. That is the budget, the total amount of money that will be required. Okay. That is it. So on the first page, the next thing that we need is percentage basic access to
The last solution. The
Yes.
last solution has worked. So I'm trying to help the other person so that he can also keep up.
Okay.
So use the last solution, changing the rural with, put the double quote after the asterisk.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So we need to now go back to our slides. Let me take you back to the slides so that we know what next after that. So, okay, so here we are. So the reason as to why we use the nugget, that one, it was like a small triangle. The reason as to why we use that is to ensure that there is uniformity when it comes to spacing of the different tabs or even the different shapes. So uniformity is key in visualizations. That is why we use a small nugget. So we want to come up with a map that shows us how far along the project is. We already saw the map. We also need to come up with a cost tracking visual. That is a KPI. We are going to come up with a KPI, that is a key performance indicator plot that is going to show us whether we are on the safe side or we are delving into overspending. Are we spending the right amount of money or are we overspending? So a KPI plot is going to help us in tracking or even getting to know how much money we've been using. Then we also need to come up with a breakdown of the costs of the project. And then we also need to come up with summaries of the key metrics like project progress, basic access to water, how many people are affected by the changes, and how far to go before the project is complete. So we've already done that. We've loaded our map. Now, the next thing that we need to see, in this case is, okay, let me just take you through this. So the town column in project progress is the column we use in the locations well. I think I mentioned that. So, okay. So we need some data. For the project progress percentage. That is a percentage of the project progress metric 2. And in this case, we are going to make a measure. We are going to come up with a measure. And for this case, we need a measure that is going to interact, that we're going to use to interact with the locations and date filters. a measure that is going to be open to these two filters. That is a measure that we can use, I mean, that we can filter by location, we can also filter by date. So for example, to calculate the project progress percentage, we need to calculate the number of complete projects, the number of projects that have been completed, divided by the total number of projects. So for example, we are going to check on the projects that are showing complete, then we count them, and then we divide by the total number of projects that we had. And the total number of projects, they are those projects that are found within the project table, the project progress table. So at a national level, it includes all the projects in Maji Ndogo. But for a specific town like Jen, it will be the number of projects completed in Jen, not just on a national level, divided by the number of projects in Jen in total. So we want to come up with a measure that is going to be able to be filtered by the location and also date. That is what we need to put emphasis in. So for example, for us to be able to calculate the total number of improvements, remember we can just know the total number of improvements by counting them. We just pick the column, and then we aggregate them by count. And by doing that, we are going to get the total number of improvements. But in this case, we need these improvements to be able, or even we need to be able to filter out using the location and also the date. So this is the formula that we are going to use. Total improvement is equals to, and then it's a calculation. So in this case, we are calculating what? The number of rows. Remember, the number of rows shows all the number of projects within the project progress table. And then all except project progress, whereby project progress is town. So what does this mean? What does it mean? So this option here, or even the calculate value, lets us modify how we calculate a measure based on specific conditions. So which in this case are a set of two conditions, that is all except and all. So we have all except and all. So if you use all, then you'll be able to input maybe specific values below it, below the calculate, all of them. And then all except, you have an exception in this case. So we are calculating specific values with exception to a specific filter. So count rows just counts the total number of values that we are having, the total number of values, the rows within a specific table. So all except project progress, this one, what does it mean? This bit is telling Power BI to ignore all filters except for the one in the town column. So this one is going to ignore all the filters except the one in the town column. So if we filter our data to only show maybe specific towns, then our aggregate number of improvements are also going to change. It's also going to change. So assume we only want towns that are found in maybe a specific, maybe that are found in Jen, or even maybe we want projects in a specific town like Lusaka. So what is going to happen in this case is that all the other filters are going to be ignored. That is filters with relation to time, filters with relation to, not time but date, filters with relation to date, filters with relation to maybe province. And the only filter that is going to remain is the town filter. So in this case, this specific command or even this specific query is going to count all the values on a national level and also on a town level. So all the other filters are going to be disregarded apart from the town filter. Okay, so since we are done with that, I'm going to do that. Let me just take you through this. So what we get is the total number of projects in the project progress table. But if we select a town, it calculates all of the improvements in that town. We are going to see that that is in a short time. So next up, the number of completed projects. We need to come up with another measure that counts the number of projects that have been completed. And in this case, we are going to notice that the number of completed projects have they have this specific, or even they'll be labeled as complete. So we are going to count all the rows that are showing complete on the project status. And if we count them, we are going to realize that they are 29. And then now that we have that, we go ahead and calculate the percentage of projects that have been completed. So how do we get the percentage projects that have been completed? It's going to be the number of projects that have been complete over the total number of projects, and then we multiply that by 100. We multiply that by 100. And on a national level, we are going to have 0, like the percentage progress, or even the project progress on a national level is going to be 0. But if we click on a town like Serowe, we are going to notice that it's going to be 1% done. 1% done. Okay, so let me take you to that shortly. Let me take you to that. Okay, now we are now here. So we add a new measure. We add a new measure that calculates the total number of improvements. So on the project progress table, we can navigate to table view, and then on the project progress table, we are going to add a new measure. So click on new measure, click on new measure, and then you paste the formula there. So total improvements is equals to that. We just pasted the formula and then run it. So that is it. Those are the total improvements. These are, or even that is the measure. So we can test the measure to check whether it's working. So what are now the total improvements? What are the total improvements? What are the total improvements? The total number of improvements that we are supposed to be having. Change that to a number, that is to a card. And as you can see, the total number of projects that we have, or even that we are supposed to improve, are 25,000. They are 25K. Now we can try to check whether our filter is going to work out. So let me add on the town. Let me use town name as a filter. Let me use town name as a filter. I'm going to use that as a slicer. So what we do is that we click on town name and then click on slicers, or even change it to a slicer. And then we change the nature of the slicer. We can use maybe a tile. We can use a tile. Okay. Let me hope that you are able to see the towns. Let me just make the colors to be bold so that they are able to, they are visible. Okay, so now we have the slicers. That is a slicer. Use a lighter shade. Yeah, that is far much better. We can give it a heading, it's town, and then we can change the color to red. We can change the color to red. Okay, so now we have our slicer. So if we click on a specific town like Bello, you're going to see some specific changes. So in Bello, we are having 246 improvements. So you can see it's changing. We are having 246 improvements. If you click on another town like let me click on Serowe. Where is Serowe? There is Serowe. We are having 129 improvements in Serowe that are supposed to be done. That is it. Let me also add the province name. Province name. As a slicer. Okay, so right there we have the province names. We have the provinces. Let me also change the visibility. Okay, so we have that. That is the provinces, and I can also add location type. I can also add location type as a slicer again, so that we can be able to check a few things about that. Okay. Let me do away with the title. So we now have this. So if we click on rural, you're going to see all the improvements that are found in rural, in that case. And you're also going to see like a change within the towns. So this measure calculates all the aggregate number of improvements that are supposed to be done for specific towns. So if you click on rural, you can see that we have all the towns that are found in rural parts of Maji Ndogo. If you click on urban, you're going to see all the towns that are in urban parts of Maji Ndogo. And apart from that, if you click on Akatsi, you're going to see we have all the towns and all the rural parts of Akatsi and the number of improvements, same to Amansi. So it's working based on towns. Based on towns. Okay, so that is it. That is it. So the next thing we need to calculate, the total number of projects that have been completed. The total number of projects that have been completed. And as I've said, to calculate the total number of projects that have been completed, that is very, very easy. We just check the number of projects that are showing complete, the total number of projects that are showing complete, and then we the total number of projects that are showing complete, and then we count them. So I'm going to come up with a new measure that is on project progress. We come up with a new measure. Okay. And as you can see, we have source status. Source status shows two things, either backlog or complete. So if we click on complete, then you are going to see this. You're going to see these values here. All these are the projects that have been completed. So we are going to follow the same criteria. We are going to follow the same criteria. And let me add a new measure. We add a new measure. And then, okay, so this is it. This is it. So number of completed projects is equals to, I've used the same formula like before. I've used the same formula like before. The only thing that I've changed is this string here. For the other one, we were just counting all the rows in project progress. But in this case, I've changed the string to only include values for whereby we are having complete. So as these tables will be updated, the values are going to also be updating themselves. So we calculate the number of rows, or even we count the number of rows from project progress, whereby the source status, this is the source status, is equals to complete. You can use 2 equal signs to show strictly equal to. You can use 2 equal signs, it will still return the same thing, or even you can also use 1. And then all except we have town. We only want to keep filters for town. That is for the town. And then you can remove the all except. You can remove the all except, and it's still going to give you the same results. So our filter is now, our measure is now active, so we can test on that. The number of completed projects, how many projects have been completed, how many projects have been completed. So I can add that there, then change that. And observed earlier, the number of completed projects were 29. They were 29. They were 29. So let me just change the name or even the title. So complete projects are 29. If we want to know the number of projects that have been completed within the urban and the rural parts, we click on the filter. So for rural, they are 16, and for urban, they are 13 projects. Rural 16, urban 13. If you click on Akatsi, you're going to also see a change. Akatsi, they are 6. Amansi, they are blank. That is for urban. Remember, we are having 2, urban, Amansi. What about urban Awasa? Urban Awasa, they are Kilimani, they are, it's also 1. So that is it. So we've now calculated, we've now come up with a measure that shows the total number of complete projects. The next step is we want to know, we already have the total number of projects. That is the total improvements, the total projects that are supposed to be worked on. And we have the total number of projects that are supposed to be, the projects that have been completed. So the next thing we need to know the percentage project progress. Like, what is the progress out of the total number of improvements that we were supposed to do? How many projects have we completed? And what is the percentage? The percentage will help us in tracking change, or even tracking the upgrades as they are being done. And we've also used, remember, we've also used the same formula that like the one that we had used before. Okay. So now I'm going to come up with a new measure and this measure is going to find the percentage. And in finding the percentage, we are going to be dividing the total number of complete projects with the total number of projects that were supposed to be done, and then we multiply all of them by 100%. We multiply by 100%. So let me come up with a new measure. Let me check. You have to ensure that you put the measures in the right, okay. So let me just do away with that. Since it's showing within the infrastructure cost, I need to do away with that. A minute. So let me delete that measure. I want it to appear within the project progress table. So you first of all click on the table project progress, and then new measure. And then our measure will be percentage project progress. percentage project progress. Percentage progress, project progress would be equal to, so we want to divide the two. We want to divide, and in this case, we are dividing the number of projects that have been completed. So divide what? So we are dividing the number of complete projects, number of completed projects with the number of incomplete projects. So with the name of the measure was total improvements, with total improvements. And then we put brackets. So we are dividing that. So percentage project progress will be given by dividing the number of complete projects over the total improvements. And then we need to change that into percentage. So under format, we need to change that to percentage, and then we can choose the number of decimal places that we want to show. But in our case, let us just work with 2 decimal places. And we have that. We have that. So our measure is active. So we can test our measure. We can test that. So percentage project progress. Overall percentage project progress. Our overall percentage project is 0.11% nationally. But if you click on Serowe, the one that we've been told within our, if you click on Serowe, you're going to realize that Serowe has 1%. The project progress in Serowe is 1% with one completed project. With one completed project out of the 129. That is Serowe. And Serowe is in Awasa, urban parts of Awasa. So that is it. We can maybe change our project progress, our measure, to only show 1 decimal place. So if you want to change that to only show 1 decimal place or maybe 0 decimal places, then we change from here. And after changing, we've changed that to 0 decimal places. Yeah, it's now saved. Now we go back to there, and you can see that Serowe is showing 1%. So the project progress in Serowe is 1. What about nationally? Nationally, the project progress is 0. That is what we had discussed we had discussed about within our slides. Okay, so that is it. So we've now answered the first, or even we've now come up with the first value. So percentage basic access to water. We've not calculated that. People helped nationally. And then cumulative, okay, we've not answered that. But percentage project complete, we've already calculated that. So we can take that to that box. We copy that. And then we just paste it here. We paste this value there. Okay. We'll just make this to be somehow bigger. Okay, so that is what we do. So now the percentage project progress is 0% nationally. I can also add maybe the provinces. Let me add the provinces, this slicer. Let me copy that slicer and paste it there. I can paste it here. So what we do, we just sync them. So and then I can also add another slicer for rural. Now, one easier way of doing this is by using drill throughs. You can use drill through, or even you can sync the slicers. If you don't want to keep on doing this, you can just sync the slicers. Like, okay, so you navigate to view, and then there is an option here, sync slicers. So you click on sync slicers, and you're going to see all the slicers. We have national, we have different slicers. So in this case, you select on the slicer. This is the slicer that I want. So where do you want it to appear? I want it to appear within the national, the key indicators page, the town level, and the vendor. So if I want it to appear in all the pages, I will just select on that. Syncing means once you click on a value, for example, if I click on a currency, then all the other pages are going to be affected. In this case, all the other pages are going to show values or even information related to a currency. So that is it. So that is how we are going to sync, and then we have that. Let me also copy that. So we now have that. Let me take you back. Let me take you back to the slides and see what we are supposed to calculate. So we already have the percentage of project that is complete. We also have the percentage of we also have the number of projects that are complete. So the next thing is more sources to go. We need to calculate how many sources are remaining. And for us to be able to calculate the number of sources that are remaining, it is just a difference of the total number of sources minus the sources that have not been completed. Like we have the number of sources, the total number of improvements, we minus the total the number of completed projects. That is what is going to give us the number of remaining sources. So more sources to go. This is the number of remaining sources. Remaining projects that are supposed to be worked on. So now, since we have a good metric to show progress on the map, we can use the percentage project complete on the color saturation variable. So after using that, we are going to see this value here. We are going to see that. Okay. So towns like Zuri, Mrembo, and Isikalo are gray in the map. So we are also going to analyze that. So next up, we need to calculate the basic access to water. Remember from our previous calculation, we had already calculated the percentage of people who are having basic access to water since we had generated a column. But now we need to come up with a measure. We need to come up with a measure that calculates the total number of people who are having basic access to water. So rivers were replaced by wells. Wells are clean once they are complete. Wells are only clean once they are complete. So these citizens now have basic access to water from an improved water source. So basic access to water is equals to population with basic access plus the population which has been improved. Population whose sources have been improved over the total population. Okay. So we've been given a formula here. Total population, the total population is equals to, we calculate, then we have a blank water source, then blank. This one gives us the sum of all the people. So we are going to sum all the people in the project progress table, whereby the project progress shows complete. Okay, sorry about that. This total population. So total population will give us, in this case, we've been told only keep town as a filter. So in this case, we are going to replace this blank with town, Okay, then fill in the blanks to calculate the total population, and we should get 28 million. I think we already did this. The total population was 28 million. We already did that, but in this case, we didn't use town as a filter. So we are going to do that again. We are going to do that. And then now we need to calculate the population with basic access. And we are going to replace our column, the column that had basic access and below basic access, with this formula. What this formula does is that it calculates the sum of all the people, in this case, the sum of the number of people served. So it's summing them. And then it is summing them on this filter. It is filtering out these values. So we want the population when, that is, all the values, we are filtering all the values from the water source table, whereby it is either the type of water source is a well and the results are clean, or tap in a home. I mean, the type of water source is tap in a home, or the type of water source is a shared tap, and the average queue time is less than 30. So you know that for the final output to be true, one of the queries must output true or all of them. That is whenever we use a or. So whenever we use a or, either one of them is true or all of them are true, or maybe two of them are true. So if one of them is true, then it's going to find the sum of all those values. If only two of them are true, then it's going to find the sum of those values. If all of them are true, then it's going to find the sum of all those values. That is what this is doing. So we are using or in this case, the or and the and logic. So that is what we are going to do. And then after this one is going to give us the population with basic access. Originally, the population that had basic access. And then if we want to know the population that has now been improved, or even the population whose sources have been improved, we are going to use another formula to calculate that. And we are only going to replace that. We are going to find the sum. We are going to find the sum of the number of people who have been served, where the source status shows complete. Where the source status shows complete. That is what we are going to do. I don't know whether that formula is down here. There is a lot of information. Anyway, so let me take you back to that. So this is what we are having. So for our case, we need to first of all begin by calculating the total population of Maji Ndogo. And the total population of Maji Ndogo will be given by, we want to use town as a filter. So the total population will be given by summing all the people up. So let me just create that. So on to the water source table. The water source table, that is the one that shows the population. So we create a new measure. We create a new measure on the water source table. And then the new measure would be total population. So these are formula. These are formula in this case. We are calculating the sum of the people that are served. That is the sum of the people. And then we keep town as a filter. We keep town as a filter. We want that information to be able to be filtered by town, or even we need to be able to filter our total population by town. So we run that. Yeah. So now we have our total population. We can count, we can check on that. We can check on that. So for the total population, we had used an aggregate. So I can replace that now with total population on the water source table. So I can replace this with total population. And after replacing, you can see the value remains to be 28 million. After replacing, the value remains to be 28 million. Okay. Now the next measure is to calculate the total number of people who are having basic access, the total number of people with basic access to water. That is originally before beginning the project. How many people had basic access to water? That is what we want to know. Okay. So we create a new measure, still on the water source table. And then we paste the formula there. We paste the formula there. Okay, I pasted the formula with, so we need to change the formula, the sum of the values, like these hyphens might lead to errors. Okay, so we need to make sure that these changes are done. Otherwise, we are going to run into an error. So what I'm doing is that I'm just replacing where we have some errors. You can also see we are having an error, unexpected expression. Okay. Okay, so that is it. That is it. So this is the formula. This is the formula. The only thing that I've done is that I've changed the orientations, that like the intent and all that, but it is still the same formula. So we run that, and after running that, this is going to give you the population with basic access. This is initially what was the population of people who had basic access to water initially. So let me have that. Population with basic access, and then change that to a not. So initially the number of, yes?
Please pardon on that. I didn't get it right.
Okay. Let me take you back to that. So this is the formula. This is the formula. This formula is the same as what you have. The only thing that I did is that I removed the comments. I removed the comments. That is the only thing that I removed, the comments actually. So population with basic access is equals to, we sum all the people. We sum all the people in this case. And we are summing them based on this. So we want to get a population where, that is, we are getting the values from the water source. So where the type of water source is a well and the results are clean, or the type of water source is a tap in home, or the type of water source is a shared tap and the average queue time is less than 30. So we are using or, two ors in this case. So this one, or this one, or the third one. So if one of them outputs true, then we sum the number of people in that case. We use sum. I mean, we sum the number of people. So the work of this filter is to just filter out these values. It is used to filter out these values from this specific table. So we are filtering all the values in this case, whereby the source of water type is a well and the results are clean. So if maybe the first part, if this first part is true and the others are false, then we are going to sum the values, the number of people for this specific part. That is what OR does. So we've used an OR and an OR. The first OR represents this first decision that has to be made. Then the second one represents this last part here. That is it. Okay. So you can see we are using an AND. This AND represents the first one. This one has to be a well and the results must be clean. And then this other AND here represents that value there. So what you do, you just run it. This is the same formula. Let me just share it on the chart. Let me share it on the chart. Let me share it. I'm not sure. Let me see whether I can see the chart. Yeah, let me share it on the chart. Maybe you can see it from there. Yeah. So after you're done, you load it, or even you run it. And after running it, you're going to have that. So that is the total population of people who are having basic access to water. It's 9 million. There are 9 million. 9 million people are having basic access to water. Now, the next thing we need to know, how many people out of the 9 million people, we have some additional number of people who are now having basic access to water. And these are the people whose projects have been completed. These are the people whose projects have been completed. So how are we going to know that value? We are going to sum or even find the sum of the people, the number of people served, whereby the project progress source status shows complete. That is what we are going to do. So we come up with a new measure, still on the same table, that is water source table, and then we come up with a new measure. And this measure will actually calculate the total number of people who are having basic access to water, the additional number of people who have been helped. So this is it, this is the formula. So we are summing the total number of people served where the project progress source status is equals to complete. So let me put a comment there where, so we are finding the total number of people where the project progress source status shows complete. And we run that. We run that. And then we can now check on that. So remember, these are now the number of people who have been helped, or even they are the people who have actually been, or even they have had different upgrades within their different regions. So we can say that the people who have been helped nationally, they are now the population that we've just calculated. The population that is now basic, the population that is having basic access to water. And this is that is the value, 11,000. So nationally, the people that have access to basic water, they are 11,000. That is now the new value, the new population of people having basic access to water. The 11,000 people. Now, 11,000 plus the initial value. Remember, the initial value was 9 million. 9 million people had basic access to water initially, in this case. So if you pick 9 million plus 11,000, you get 9 million and 11,000. That is what you're going to get. So if we want to know the national number of people who are having basic access to water, the total number of people who are having basic access to water, then we are going to add them. We pick the 11,000 plus the 9 million. The 11,000 plus 9 million. That will give us the total population of people, or even the percentage of people having basic access to water. Now, assume we want to calculate the percentage, because that is what we were looking for in this first box, the percentage of people having basic access to water. The percentage of people having basic access to water would be the total number of people, that is 11,000 plus 9 million, over the total number of people in Maji Ndogo, which is 28 million, then multiplied by 100%. So that means that we are also going to come up with a new measure that calculates, or even that that shows the total number of people who are having basic access to water per region. So we create a new measure. We create a new measure. We create a new measure. Okay. Okay.
Musa, sorry, Musa, we are stuck on your dashboard.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me see what you guys are seeing. Okay.
Also, on our material, that 11,000, I think it wasn't rounded up to the figure we have there is 10,000 something. So it wasn't rounded up. So if you can just remove the round up so we can have the same value.
Maybe you can help me. What is this 11,000? I'm just lagging behind. Sorry, guys.
11,000 is the new number of people that have access to basic water. That is those that their projects have been completed. So we calculated it by
confirm whether my screen is now showing.
Yes, it's showing your table now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So someone asked about the 11,000. The 11,000 in this case is the new number of people who are having basic access to water. Like these are now the people whose projects have been completed, as Tocha said. The people whose projects have been completed. So initially, the total number of people who had basic access to water were 9 million. These were the people who, so you remember that like in Amansi, most of the people were having basic access to water because most of the people there were government officials. So 9 million people out of 28 million had basic access to water. So that means that the people who did not have basic access to water are 18 million. That is 28 million minus 9 million. You get 18 million. So we are trying as much as possible to improve the lives of these 18 million people who are now lagging behind. And out of the 18 million people, we are having these 11,000 people whose now projects have been completed. So out of the 18 million, we've only solved 11,000. We've only helped 11,000 people. So we want to know what is this percentage. We want to know the percentage of people that are having basic access to water as per now. So what we do is that we create a new measure. So
sorry, how do you query?
Yes.
How did you run the query for the?
I think I haven't gotten your point. I've gotten only the first point. How I have run the query for what? Hello.
For that 11,000.
Okay. So this is it. This is the measure that I created. So population now basic access. I call it population now. Why are we calling it now? Because this is the new value. Or even I can say population, I can call it population whose projects are complete. Population complete projects. Population complete projects. Okay, let me just call it population complete projects. Population of, whose projects have been completed. So how do we do that? We just calculate the total number of people served, whereby the project progress source status shows complete. That is the syntax. Not even that is the code. And then we run it. And after running it, you're going to see some changes. So like what I did, if I can take you back to that, you're going to realize that in this case, this is population whole number. I can maybe change that to maybe show 2 decimal places or 1. For my case, I'm having 0 decimal places. So maybe, or even I can also decide to omit the decimal places. So I can use 2. Let me use 2 decimal places. And after using 2 decimal places, you are going to see we are having 10.76 thousand. 10.76 thousand. That is the total population who are having basic access to water. So as I was saying, we need to calculate the percentage of population who are having basic access to water as per now. Remember, this percentage would be given by calculating the total number of people who are having basic access to water over the total population in Maji Ndogo, then multiplied by 100%. Multiplied by 100%. So for us to be able to do that, we are going to come up again with a new measure. A new measure. Measures are they are actually simple to work with, because in this case you don't store lots of columns of data. So this is a percentage of population that has basic access to water now, as per now. So what we do is that first of all, we add these two, that is population with basic access. That is, we had already calculated that. This is a population that initially had basic access to water, plus the population whose projects are now complete, plus the population whose projects are now complete. So population with basic access plus the population whose projects are now complete, and then we divide that with the total population. The total population, we had already calculated that, which is 28 million. So we divide that by 28 million. So remember, we are using divide by. We are not using calculate, because in this case, we are only dividing measures. These are measures. If maybe we were looking forward to calculating new values, then we would use the calculate option. But in this case, we are only working with measures. That is why we are using divide. If maybe I wanted to find the sum of measures, I would just write sum of these two measures. And then the values that you want them divided, you separate them with a comma. So we are dividing the output of the first value, or even the first addition, with this last value here, total population. And we run that. And that is going to give us the percentage of the population that now has basic access to water. Okay, so we go back. So we can now fill the first box here, the percentage population with basic access to water. And we are just going to pick this up. We're just going to use that column. And then we change it to a card. And as you can see, on a national level, it's 0%. This does not mean that it's 0%. It's because I'm using decimal places. Otherwise, I can change the number of decimal places to, maybe 2, maybe 3, and you're going to see the value change. Let me have around how many? Let me have 4. Yeah. So you can see that is it. So the percentage project progress on a national level is 0.1142. 0.1142. But let us use what we were given. So let me just have 0. Let me change the display unit to auto, and it's going to be 0%. That is on a national level. If you click on maybe rural, then it's also going to show, you can see it's 0%. Urban, it's also 0%. What about in per specific provinces? You can see, like in Amansi, there is nothing that has been started. No projects have been done in Amansi. Kilimani, you can see it's 0%. This does not mean it's 0%. It is 0.00 something. And then in Akatsi, you can see we have 2.9K people whose projects have been done, but the percentage project is still 0. And then Awasa, you can see that. Sokoto, you can also see that. So you can see on a national level, the values are showing that. What about on a town level? What about on a town level? Assume I wanted that value on a town level. So in my case, I'm going to, so what about if I wanted that on a town level? So if I click on a town like Serowe, let me check on the project, the percentage of people having basic access to water in Serowe, and navigate back to the national page. Okay. So in this case, let me add it there. Percentage of project, should be percentage of population that are having basic access. So in Serowe is 0.57. That is similarly 1. And then you can work with some other towns like Amara. Amara is 0.38%. In Amina, that is in Awasa, is 0.25. Now, since this is a percentage, I need to change my measure to percentage. So you navigate to the measure, and then under general, you change that to percentage. You change that to percentage and save. And you're going to see the values. So now the values are now changing. The values are now changing. So on a national level, the percentage of people having basic access to water is 0%. That is 0.11 something percent. So we are done with that. We are done with that. The next thing, we need to see the changes within our map. So we need to know how the projects are being done on a town level. So we are going to add the percentage project progress per town, the percentage project progress per town in this case. And after adding that to the color saturation well, you can see what we are having. So you can see this specific town here, which is Serowe. Serowe is having the highest progress, that is 1%, then followed by Cheche, 0%, Yaounde. The blues, the darker shades of blues are showing greater progress, while the gray ones are showing lower progress. Okay, so we are now done with that. So the next thing, let me take you back to our slides. Okay, so we are now done with that part. So the next thing, we need to calculate the total number of people who have basic access. We've already done that. Okay, I think there is a bit that I've not shown, but I think I will show you that. So the total number of people who are having access to basic water once all the improvements are complete, including those that had access already. And nationally, it was around 0%, but on clicking on okay, percentage population now basic access, and remember to format it to display a percentage. It should be that 4% at the start. And if you select the town of Serowe in Awasa, you should see 57% access. That is basic access to water. So it will be population with basic access plus population improved over the total population. Okay, just a minute, I need to take you back to that. Yeah, I think I explained that. This is what I was confirming. Nationally, it's that 4%. If we click on Serowe, it's going to be 57, 56.7, that is 57%. So that is okay. The next thing is cost. We are now going to dig deep into the costs.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting. How did you calculate the project completed progress?
Come up again.
Project complete. The one that you have just concluded last.
Okay. I think you might be connected using two devices. Mute one. Okay, so you are asking how we calculated the national percentage project progress. This one, okay. And then we also have the population that is showing complete projects. I mean, the population whose projects have been completed. So we have this. This is a percentage population that now has basic access to water. And how did we calculate this? We added the initial population which had basic access to water, which was around 9 million. And then we added that to the population whose projects have been completed, that was 11,000 or even around 10,700 and something. And then we divided that with the total population. Initially, there were 9 million people who had basic access to water. And then, as a matter of the upgrades that were being done within the different regions, 11 people had their sources upgraded. So the total population now totals to 9 million plus 11,000. So the first part is 9 million, the second one is 11,000. And then we divide that with the total population, which is 28 million. And that gives us the total population. I mean, the total percentage of people who are having basic access to water. Remember, if you divide the two, you are going to get a fraction. So you have to format your measure to show percentages. By formatting it to show percentages, it's going to multiply by 100%. And what you're going to see is a percentage. So the percentage project progress, nationally, it's 0. You can actually change this to maybe showcase more than 1 decimal place, so that you don't work with maybe these values. That is zeros, a lot of zeros. And for you to be able to do that, you just navigate to the format and then call out value and change that to, that is display units, change that to none. No units, and you're going to see all this, 0.1142. That is nationally. Okay. I hope that clarifies your question. Now, let me take you back. So the next thing that we are going to be working on, we want to now do some analysis on the cost. So we need to know about our finances and how much of money have we spent so far. So like we need to know whether we are overdoing it or we are on the right side. That is, if we are overspending or we are not spending a lot of money. And as I said, a KPI is going to be best in this case. A KPI, a key performance indicator, is going to be a good one. In this case, it is going to be an excellent tool to visualize our spending. So what we are going to do is that we need a date slicer. One thing that we are going to need is a date slicer, so that we can be able to select between different dates. We want to know, like from January 2022 to the end of that year, how much money had we spent on these upgrades. So we will be needing a date slicer. So that means that we are going to add a slicer. Now, apart from that, we also need some specific measures. Remember, we need the total cost and we also need the total budget. Remember, the total budget was almost, we had already calculated that. The total budget was roughly 146.74 million. That was the total budget. So we need to know how much have we spent. What is the total cost? What is the total cost? That is what we want to know. So we are going to call the total cost, we are going to call it the cumulative cost, and then the total budget is going to be termed as the cumulative budget. And then the numbers should sum up all of the budgeted costs and all the running costs up to date, such that if we are having different projects being done on a yearly basis, then we are going to be adding all the spending, all the amount of money that was spent on those projects per year, and then we sum them up. Okay. So let me take you back to the slides. Okay, so for the total budget, this is what we are going to need. We are going to create two measures, one for the total cost and the other one for the total budget. So the first one is for the cumulative budget. So for the cumulative budget, we are going to find the sum of the budgeted cost. Remember, we had created a new column that was called the budgeted cost in the project table. So we are going to find the sum of the budgeted cost, in that case, column, and then we are going to filter all, in that case. So for the project progress, we are going to use the column budgeted cost, or even the budgeted cost in this case. And then we are going to use the date of completion as a slicer. I mean, as a filter in this case. So we only want to get the values whereby the project progress date of completion is less than or equal to the maximum date of completion. That means that we are going to add all the values from the beginning of the project to the end of the project. So our filter in this case is going to account for all the dates. That is from the first project to be done up to the last project to be done. That is why we are having this. So where the project date of completion is less than or equal to the maximum date of completion. So it's going to add all the cost, the budgeted cost for those dates. So if the last date of completion was maybe 2022, was the year 2022. So it's going to add all the budgets that were done before 2022. And then as we upgrade those values, they're also going to be showing up within our cumulative budget, because this is a running budget. Same to cumulative cost. So for cumulative cost, we are going to use the cost column. We're not going to use the budget column. We are going to use the cost column. So, and then after we are done with that, we need to set up a KPI. So the KPI is going to show the cost and the budget, the cost against the budget. We want to know whether we are spending too much or we are spending less amount of money. So for this case, we are going to come up with something like this. So this format is not quite correct. So we have to change some of the settings. First, we are going to need to change the goal. We are going to, okay, so we are going to change some few things. We are going to change the trend axis to low is good. That is low is good. That is a low value is good. And then we are also going to change the target label to budget. We are trying to target the budget. That is, we are spending, that is spending in this case is cost. So we are trying to spend some money, aiming to reach at the budget, but not passing the budget or even spending more than the budget. Okay, so with the KPI is going to answer some specific questions. It is going to show us the trend of the overall cost over time, how much money we have spent, how much we wanted to spend, and with colors and icons, we are going to clearly show whether we have overspent, that is budget deficit, or we have spent less, that is budget surplus. So we are going to know whether we've been able to overspend or spend less. So we are going to add metrics like people helped. We already did this. The number of sources to still improve on, that is the total improvements minus the number of completed projects. And then we are also going to use the aggregated improvements column from the last time to break down cost per improvement type. Okay, and we are going to have something like this. We are going to have something like this on a national level. Okay, so let me take you to that. So this is what we are having. So we need to now come up with a column, a measure that shows the aggregated improvements, the total improvements for specific dates, because we only want to aggregate the improvements for specific dates, not for all the dates. We only want to be able to use data as a slicer. So to our project progress, we click new measure, and then we come up with a measure. The first measure is going to be the cumulative budget. And remember, we were given that within the slides. So what we are going to do is replace the values. We are going to replace the values. We are going to replace the values. Okay, so this is the formula. I replaced the values. So we want to find the sum of all the values within project progress table under the column budgeted improvement cost. This one, the one that we had calculated from our previous discussion, this column here, the one that some of you are saying that it was showing 42, this column here. And then we are going to filter out the values whereby the or date of completion. Another condition here, date of completion is not blank. By the date of completion is not blank. Is blank, then we are going to the change. When it comes to Power BI, there is a change in how we write. Writing is not null, or even not null. But with Power BI, we write not into brackets is blank. So we first of all start with is blank, and then we circle that with, or even we enclose that with not. So it's the opposite of not blank. Not is blank. So the date of completion is not blank, and then we find the sum. So we are finding the sum of all the budgeted improvement costs for the values whereby the date of completion is not blank, and number two, the project progress date of completion is equal to or less than the maximum date of completion. So if we use a date slicer in this case, it's going to be accounting for all those values. So we calculate that, and our measure is active. Our measure is active. Now, the next thing, we can now come up with another measure. We can come up with another measure for the budgeted costs. for the budgeted cost, and the budget for the budgeted cost, we are going to use the cost column in this case, not the budget, We are going to use the cost column. So your cumulative cost is equals to the sum of the cost column. The cost column is this. This is the cost column here at the far end. This is the cost column. So we are going to add all the values on the cost column, whereby the date of completion is less than or equal to the maximum date of completion. And the date of completion column, this one is not blank. And then we run that. And after running that, we can now showcase the changes. So since we have this, we can now check whether we are making progress. So we can check.
Sorry, Musa. Sorry to cut in. Please, if you can help us when you get these formulas, help us paste the formulas on the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, just as you're working, I'll just be pasting the formulas. When you generate the formulas, just paste them on the chat as well, so that we can also be trying it out at our end. Thank you.
Okay, let me paste that one. So the one that I've just pasted is a formula for cumulative costs. And then maybe let me check the other one for cumulative budget. Then I paste it there. That is for the cumulative budget.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. So for this specific part, you can see that the cumulative budget is 128.45. Now, can someone tell us why this budget is different from the initial budget? The initial budget was 146.75 million, but the cumulative budget is 128.45 thousand. Why are they different?
I'm thinking it's because of the time, the filter time that we added now, because yeah, because of the completion date, is it?
Okay, so the reason as to why we are having differences, remember the initial one, this one was, it was a total budget. This was a total budget. And in this case, we had not used dates as a filter. That one was total budget, the total budget of doing all the upgrades. Like this was the total amount of money that we needed to do all the upgrades. And then we have the cumulative budget. The cumulative budget in this case represents the budget for those projects that have been completed. It only represents the budget for those projects that have been completed. Same to cumulative cost. Cumulative cost represents the cost for those projects that have actually Okay, so cumulative cost represents the amount of money that was spent on doing the upgrades for the ones that have actually been completed. Okay, I think I have a problem with that. Let me check on that. Let me check on that measure, cumulative cost. So cumulative cost is equals to okay, so cumulative cost is equals to this project progress. So we are adding the cost column the cost column, okay, whereby the date of completion is not blank. Okay, I can change this to currency. Let me change that to currency because it's money, and then save that. Okay, I'm receiving an error, calculation error in measure project progress cumulative cost. The function sum cannot work with values of type string. Okay, it seems that there is the cost might be a string. Let me change that. Yeah. Actually, my cost column is I didn't clean that. It's text, so I need to change that to money. I need to change that to money. So what we do, data type, it's text. I mean, it's currency. What am I saying? Data type, it should be whole number. Whole number, and then the format should be currency. Format should be currency. Yeah. So we've now changed that. If you realize that you're coming across similar errors, it means that you didn't do your cleaning well. So let us now see whether it's going to work. Yeah, and it's now showing. So that column was the one that was having some specific problems. So the cumulative cost is 131.92. So you can see that the budget that we had allocated for this specific project was 128.45. But out of that, we've only been able to use 131.92. So that means that we are overspending. We are actually overspending. So we can actually use a KPI. We can use a KPI. A KPI would be good in actually trying to counter check whether we are spending a lot of money or we are spending less money. So what we do is that we are going to click on the KPI, key performance indicator visual, a KPI, we click on that. And after clicking on that, now you see three options. You're going to see the value option, the trend axis, and you're also going to see the target. So our target in this case is the cumulative budget. That is our target. And then the value that we are having is the cumulative cost. So you drag those values there. And then what is going to be the trend line is the date of completion, the time, the date of completion. So that one is going to serve as our trend axis. So we want to track the budget over time. We want to track the spending over time, and then we put it there. Now, if you look at this, it is marked with a tick, showing us that we are on the right side. While if I take you back to this page, you can see that we are not on the right side. We've spent 131.92 thousand, and we had allocated 128.45 thousand shillings. So that means that we are overspending. That means that we are overspending. So this one is not correct. So what we do is that we proceed, we navigate again. We navigate to trend axis and change this value. High is good to low is good. Low value is good. That means that if the lower the change, the better. The lower the percentage change, the better. So this means that if you see a negative 2.7, that means that we are that this value here is below the goal by -2. Or even I can say it's 2.7% higher than our goal. Okay, just a minute. Let me take you to the next part. So target label, we need to change the target label to budget. So that was our budget. Our budget was 128.45K. And you can see we've used one that 1.916. So one that 1.916 thousand shillings or even dollars, that one is 2.7% higher than 128.45, which is our budget. And that one is now okay. So you can see it's showing an exclamation mark. What does that mean? That means that the reason as to why it's showing an exclamation mark is because it is not good. If it was good, it would be showing a tick. But in this case, it is not good. That is why it's showing an exclamation mark. Okay, so that is it. Then the next thing, we need to calculate the number of sources to go. The number of sources to go, how many sources are remaining. So for us to know the number of sources remaining, it's going to be a difference. We are going to pick the difference of the total number of improvements, the total number of improvements that were supposed to be done, minus the number of improvements that have been completed, projects that have been completed. So again, we come up with a new measure. And then we calculate the number of sources to go. How many sources are remaining? How many sources are remaining? So this is the formula. The number of sources remaining is equals to the total improvements minus the number of completed projects. We subtract them. Total improvements minus the number of completed projects. And in this case, sources represent the number of projects that are yet not done. So the number of sources that are remaining is going to be the number of sources that are yet not worked on.
Please paste the formula.
This is the formula. I was almost forgetting that. So we can see nationally, we are having 25,000 sources to go. 25,000 sources are remaining. 25,000 sources are yet not worked on. They are yet not worked on. So 25,000 sources are yet not worked on. So if we click on ACADSI, you're going to see the number of sources that are yet not worked on. 4951 sources are not yet worked on in ACADSI. Complete projects in ACADSI. Maybe I could also have added that somewhere. Okay. So let me add number of complete projects somewhere here. Number of complete projects. Yeah. So the number of complete projects, they are 29. We just add them there. Let me call them complete projects. So the number of complete projects are 29 in Akatsi. I mean, not in Akatsi, but globally. The percentage project progress, you can see 0% nationally. 0% nationally. And then I think for this value here, I think, okay. I think I might be having duplicate values. Let me check what we are having. Percentage project progress and percentage project progress. Okay, I think for this first value here, this is not what I was supposed to be having. I was supposed to be having percentage water basic. So I need to replace that with percentage water basic. Yeah, this is what I was supposed to be having. Sorry about that. So global, nationally, it was that 4% of people are having basic access to water. Then 29 projects have been completed. And then nationally, we have 0% project completion. Then we have 25,000 sources, more sources to go. And then if you click on Akatsi, you're going to see the values. In Awasa, you're also going to see the values change with, that is per province, the number of sources that are remaining per province. And apart from that, you're also going to see the cost per province and also the budget per province. Same to Kilimani. I think Kilimani has the highest. Kilimani has the highest. Okay, not Kilimani. Kilimani doesn't have the highest budget. I think it must be, let me check. So Kilimani has 16, that is spending 16.71. Then Sokoto has 46.81, which is above the budget, which was 42. Hawassa is having 22, which is just below the budget. So actually, Hawassa is spending its funds in a good way. The green represents good spending. Then Akatsi is having 44. It's also having good spending in this case. Its budget was 45, but it has spent 44. Then Amansi is having 487 out of 525. So you can see some of the provinces are using their funds in a good way. They're using their funds in a good way. Not all of them are mismanaging their funds. Then the next thing, we need to come up with a cost breakdown per province. What is the cost breakdown per province? So that means that we are going to select on province. That would be a bit easier. So we select on province, the province name, and then we add onto the province, we add the cost. That is the cumulative cost. Cumulative cost. And then we can select a good visual. I'm going to work with a bar chart or even a column chart. And this is what you're going to have. You can use a pie chart, you can use a column chart, you can use any visual that that seems to be good. Let me use a column chart. A column chart is better. It shows us the amount of money that has been spent. That is the cost of doing the upgrades within the different regions. What is the cumulative cost? So that is the cumulative cost by province name. And then the next thing, we need to see the cost breakdown per improvement. So that means that we are going to select on the aggregated improvement. In this case, we are working with aggregates. Aggregated improvement. We select on aggregated improvement and then the cost, cumulative cost. What is the cost of doing the different improvements? And then we select on a good visual. And I'm also going to work with the column chart. A column chart is also better. Now, you can always change the fonts, the colors to make them visually appealing. But for our case, we are going to work with that. So in this case, you can see that the only things that have actually been done nationally, there are two. That is installing arrow filters and in repairing infrastructures. Those are the values. Remember, the cost as a filter, it only accounts for the values for the values, or even it calculates the total cost whereby the date column is not blank. So the only improvements that have been done is installing arrow filters and repairing infrastructure. So you can at the same time, you can click on provinces to see how much money has been spent. For example, in Akatsi, we are having around 40 million, which has been spent. That is around 44. And then you can see how much has been spent in installing arrow filters and repairing infrastructure. Let me change this one to include the values. So under bars, we turn on the data labels, and you're going to see this. And the data labels, in our case, we can change them to, we can change auto to inside end. So we can change the number of decimal places to around 4, and they will show us the total number. Or even we can also decide to display the units as they are. We can change that to none so that we see the entire value, but that would be very, very long. Okay, so that is it. That is it. So we are done with the first page. The only thing that is remaining is the final brushes, like the final touches, trying to work on the fonts. Like we can actually change the colors for the call out values to be red, so that and we can also bold them so that they appear maybe appealing, and also, yeah, we can change them, the values in this case. You can decide to to change them depending on how you prefer them looking like. Now, so the next thing, let me take you to the next thing very fast. I can see time is really moving fast. So you're going to have something like this, something like this. You're going to have something like that. So the only difference from this is that for the costs, we've used a bar chart instead of a pie chart. That is the only difference. That is the only difference. So that, although that is not a big difference. So now we need to proceed to the next. We also need to add a date slicer. We also need to add a date slicer in this case, and we are going to add that to the map. So now let us recap if we've achieved the user stories we started with. So we've shown how far the project is, like how much of the project has been completed, how much money has been spent so far, and where has it been spent, and what the money was spent on. We've seen that only two project improvements have been done, that is repairing infrastructure and also working on installing the RO filters. So we can also answer this, whether we are going to have enough money to complete the project. In this case, maybe in some provinces, we've done some overspending. In some of the provinces, we've been overspending. In some others, we've not overspent. So we can say that we might be on the right track, but still we need to counter check on this, on our spending. So where can we cut costs? We've not been able to analyze that. And then the other one, we need to see data on a national, provincial, and town level. We've been able to do that. We've been able to use provinces and towns as slicers. So we can be able to see that data on a provincial level, on a town level, and also on national level. So the next thing, since we've now done the upgrades, we want to update our data. We want to update our data, and we want to now check on, we need to upload this new data set. This contains values until the date 2024, 0103. So we need to load the new data set so that we need to, we see the changes that are happening within Maji Ndogo, or even the projects that have now been completed. So before that, let me add a date slicer. So we check on the date, we click on the date of completion, the date of completion, and then we change that to a slicer.
We can't see what you're doing.
Okay, sorry. Let me see. Well, okay, sorry. I thought I was presenting the Power BI. Let me take you to that. I hope now you do.
Yes, we can see now.
Okay, thank you. So you select on the date of completion, select on the date of completion, and then use that as a slicer. So you change the type of visual to a slicer. So for my case, let me just do away with it. Remove, and then click on it again. And we are going to have that. So I can do away with the quarter, and then I change that to a slicer. And then I can now change the nature of the slicer. Slicer settings, we need to have that as to show values between. So maybe I can include another column for cost. I can include another column. I've actually been trying to do this because sometimes whenever you click on this drop down, you might only see two values, that is vertical and drop down. So after clicking on that, click, let me unselect the date again, and then select on that. And then now we do away with the cost. And now you're going to see all these values. So sometimes you might, whenever you click on the date of completion, you might only have two values, vertical and time. And maybe you want to showcase values from a specific date to a specific date. You use between in that case. So if you click on between, it's going to show this line. So you can see right now, we are only having values from 2022, that is from December 1st, 2022 to 1st of January, 2023. Those are the only values that we are having. So it's actually 2 days. Is it 2 days? The 12th, that 1st and then 1st of January. Yeah, it's 2 days. So these were projects that were done within 2 days. So if I change this to maybe, let me change the values. Let me change the year to 2023. The 1st of January. Then 2023. So if I change the values to that specific day, you're also going to see the changes. Like you can see the percentage population now basic is 34%. The number of completed projects, they are 29. Population complete projects, whose projects are complete is 6.79. You can see we have 25 more to go. But still, there are some changes. Like there were some changes within these values. Some of them won't be affected by the date slicer because we only set them to be affected by the town. Like for the number of complete projects nationally, they are 10.76 thousand. But if you work around with the date slicer, you're going to see a change within this. The others do not change. Okay. So now we need to load the new data set. It contains values until 2024. So what you do, we save that. And after saving that, we now need to replace. So we click on transform data, then data source settings, and then replace source. We change the source. We change the source to the new data set that contains values until 2024. And for me, I had labeled them so that I avoid confusion. And then, okay, then close. So the only thing that is new within the new tables is that the values are now, we have now some projects that have actually been done. So once you're done loading the data, you should see some changes within the data slicer. They should now show values until 2024. They should now show values until 2024. Okay. So you can see everything is reloading, and you see a change in the percentage of population that now has basic access to water. Going to see a change in. So replacing data will not do away with any of the measures that we had calculated. So you can now see there's a change from the number of complete projects were 20, were they 25 or 29? Around 20 something, they were around 29, but now the new value is 5488. Those are complete projects. The percentage of people who had basic access to water was 34. Right now it's 48. So there is also a change. You can see the date slicer is now extended. It was from the last day of 2022 to the first day of 2023. But now we have that value to the first day, to 2024, the third month. That is the last day. So there is actually a change. The number of sources to go, they were around 250,000. Right now, there are 20,000 sources to go. 20,000 sources to go. And then the percentage project is at 22%. It was 0%. But right now, nationally, it is at 22%. So the changes, like if you want to know whether our values, our measures are working out, then the measures should be able, they should be dynamic. They should be able to change with changes in the values. And this is what is always done with, for example, if you are working with live data, or even maybe data that is coming in every time as you work with it. That is what you do. You work with measures in this case, and you ensure that you set your measures to account for all the values that are maybe, or even all the data that is coming in as you work on it. So that is it. That is it. Now, so right now you can see that the project is 22% complete. Is 22% complete. The project is 22% complete. And out of that, 20,000 sources are still yet not worked on. And the bad news is that we are still overspending. If you look at the KPI, you can see that we are still overspending. We are now at around 10%. We've used, I mean, we've gone past the budget by 10%. That is by 3 million, which is way too big. We are still overspending, and that is not a right move. So that means that we need to trim, we need to counter check on our spending. Now, if we look at the different provinces, we will be able to notice that for most of the provinces, Sokoto takes a large part of the budget. Sokoto takes a large part of the budget. So if you look at Sokoto, this specific province here, you notice that Sokoto is taken out of the budget, which was around 30.52. Sokoto takes 9.73 million. That is like a third of the budget. A third of the budget. The budget was 37, it was around 30, but Sokoto takes 9.73 million. So Sokoto alone takes a third of the budget. And apart from that, out of that 3 million shillings that have been used in doing the upgrades, out of that 3, Sokoto takes 11 million. So it's also taking a large part of our budget and also the cost. It's really taking a lot of money. Now, the other thing is that, okay, so almost around 33, from that 3 to around 40% of the budget goes to Sokoto. That is the amount of money that goes to Sokoto. And this is because Sokoto is one of the places that is in the rural parts. I mean, it has a lot of rural parts in that case. So Sokoto is a rough place with few roads. And apart from that, you'd expect that most of the people in those regions do not have fresh water because it's highly rural. And apart from that, it's also very, very big. Sokoto was one of the biggest provinces. If you look at the map, Sokoto is one of the biggest provinces. This one, it's one of the biggest provinces. You can't compare it with Akatsi and Amansi. And you can see where the money is going to. The money is going into installing RO filters, drilling wells, and also installing public taps. So all that money is going into majorly the 3. So you can also see that we've now started working on the other improvements, not like before. Okay. So we need to now come up with a new page, and this page is going to contain the different indicators. So we want to analyze and we want to try to explain the high cost. We want to know, why are we having this high cost? We want to determine whether people are, I mean, whether the vendors are the ones who are asking for these high amounts of money, or whether there is something that is causing these different regions to have a lot of, or even to maybe incur a lot of money. So in this case, we are going to create a new visual or even a new page, and we are going to call this the key indicators visual. And for this one, we are going to use that page to explain the high cost. And we are going to use the town column, the province column, the location type column, and also the time it takes to complete a project. And for that, we are going to calculate the time difference within a column, the time difference within a column. Okay. So, so we need to come up with a table. We need to come up with a table in this case, and this table is going to compare the cost of doing all the different improvements. We're also going to counter check the time, the total time that is taken, in that case. How long does it take to do a specific project in a specific town? And then we're also going to determine the average days, the average number of days, or even the average time. You're also going to find the sum of the total costs, the total amount of money spent spent in doing the different upgrades, that is the different improvements. And then the last thing, we are going to calculate the total costs per day. We are going to calculate the total cost per day. So in our third page, let me not use the second page because it's already containing some values. So let me use the third page. Let me just use the third page. Now for this page, we want to, first of all, know how long it takes. We want to know how long it takes for the different people to do the different projects within, how long it takes for the different people to do the different projects within the different locations. And in that case, we are going to find the total time in days. So we are going to calculate the difference in days, and I've just pasted the formula. I've pasted the formula in the chart that we are going to use to calculate the difference in days. So we add a new measure. We add a new measure. So we want to know whether the longer it takes for a project to be completed, whether the length of a project will determine the amount of money that is going to go into that specific project, or whether when a project takes long, whether that one means that that project is going to require a lot of money. That is the first thing that we want to determine. So we come up with a new measure. We come up with a new measure. Okay, let me see. New measure. Okay, so that is it, the time taken in days. So this will be the date difference. Remember, we learned about that. Date difference of the date started and the date of completion. The date started and the day of completion. And we only want date. If we wanted maybe week, we would have used week in this case. If we wanted years, we would have used years. And then we run that. Okay, so now I believe we have the date, the time taken. We have the time taken. So I think we have an error, something wrong with one or more fields. Let me see what we are having. Why is the error? Okay. Date started.
Let
Okay.
me check the data type for date started. I think.
Let me check on that. I think that might be the reason. Actually, it might be having a different format in that case. Data type. Let me see. So date of completion, that is mark that as date, and then date started. Oh, that was the reason. It's ABC. We need to change that to date.
We're not seeing your table.
Oh, you've not? Okay, I think it's a pop-up. That is the reason as to why it's not showing. But I've been able to change it. You just click on transform, and then you'll be able to see the column heads. For each column, it will show 1, 2, 3, or maybe ABC, or maybe a calendar to show date. So you click on that and change the format. So right now, I think it should work. Let me see. Okay, let me run this now. Okay, let me check on that again. I think I'm also missing out on something. It still shows an error, still returning an error. I don't know why. Let me check on that. I think just a minute. Let me work on this measure. Everything seems okay. Sometimes Power BI might just read output errors. Like in this case, it's not recognizing date started. as a column.
Hi guys, someone to share the formula for the population. So formula for total population. I'm missing something.
Okay, sorry guys, we lost Musa, so I guess he'll join in. He's trying to join back in. Oh, sorry, I didn't get the question you asked. Your name is showing as visitors here, but I didn't get your question. If you can repeat it. Guys, we're so sorry that the session is taking this long, but I don't know. I think I would have felt maybe we should stop now and maybe continue tomorrow, if possible. But my thought is that I think we should just complete this and know that we are done with. At least we can all still go back to the recording. But if we're going to do a vote and more people think we should stop here, then I think we should have a break and continue tomorrow.
Yeah, we can just stop here for now, and the rest of the remaining part we can do tomorrow. Meanwhile, anyone with the formula for the total population, please could you just have I'm missing something.
The total population, what population is total population that gives 28 million? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, the one that's giving 28 million.
Okay. We'll paste it on the chat.
Appreciate.
Okay, we have 29 people on the call. So what do we think? Do we want to stop now and continue tomorrow? I want to hear from more people so that we decide on what we want to do.